wish you all a very, very good evening. On behalf of the IADVIL EC and the Leadership Pipeline Committee 2022, I welcome you all to part 3 of the lectures by the stalwarts. And today we have with us the very dynamic Dr. Seemal R Desai. So Dr. Seemal is founder and medical director of the Innovative Dermatology and clinical professor, Department of Dermatology at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas. His topics of interest include pigmentary disorders, chemical peels, and he's done a lot of work on skin of color dermatology. He was also past president of the Skin of Color Society in the US. Dr. Seemal is a prolific speaker with numerous presentations to his credit and is very deservingly, as ma'am mentioned, he's the incoming president-elect of the American Academy of Dermatology. So once again, congratulations. I just like to mention that he's part of multiple organizations and he has a very, very busy schedule. He's traveling even currently. So we really appreciate him taking out the time and being with us here today. He would be speaking about getting involved and working in an organization, which I'm sure would be very, very helpful to all of us in the future. I now request Dr. Rashmi ma'am to please say a few words about her good friend, Dr. Seemal.
Hello, Surbhi, and hello, Seemal, and thank you so much, Surbhi, for that very nice formal introduction, right? So, yeah, that's the best way to say it. Now, the thing is that I don't know where to begin, but yes, I know Seemal since many, many years. Perhaps it might have been the early 2000s or something when I met him, you know. This was when somebody came to me at the American Academy of Dermatology. I don't remember the year, do you, Seemal? It's a long time back. And this was after the Skin of Color Society meeting. You know, I was heading out when, you know, a guy came, introduced himself and just said that, you know, like I've heard about you and everything. And Seemal, by the way, is one of the youngest presidents of AD. So I can say, you know, take the liberty of saying that a young guy, you know, came up and he's introduced himself very nicely and said that, you know, like, it's nice, you know, we should work together and stuff like that. This was at the American Academy of Dermatology, right? Later on, I did come to know that he stays in Texas and, you know, where one of my, you know, person who's guided me and mentored me in the early years, Dr. Amit Pandya, also stays. So that was something common. Over time, I saw him, you know, growing up gradually, and he was growing up mainly because he did a lot of hard work. Okay, so he would be lecturing in a lot of organizations. He always made sure to be part of a lot of organizations, even at that point of time, if I'm not mistaken. I think this was 2010 or something, Seemal. No, not 10, but maybe 11. When 11 or something, when he said that he wanted to be a part of the International Congress of Dermatology, he was there as a participant, which happened in Delhi. But he kind of kept on at it because, you know, in the beginning, sometimes it is not easy to get a breakthrough. He was always there. He attended all the meetings. Most importantly, he became a member of a large number of small organizations, right? Like I had the ASPCR, I had, you know, some other organizations. He would always come, become a member in that, right? Because many of us think that should we put our money forward, you know, to become a member. But he did that as a youngster. He tried to understand what was happening in a lot of our Indian organizations. He was there in the Pigmentary Disorder Society. Most importantly, I think he tried to mingle. That was important. One is that you just come somewhere and, you know, you just give a talk and you go away. You know, it was not like that. He tried to meet the people, learn their names, learn about them, and come back again to that, keeping it up constantly. So he became almost a permanent speaker and a friend of the Pigmentary Disorder Society. We started this in 2012. So I think that's the time. And then after that, he would come give talks. Probably he gave one talk. After that, you know, he was quite happy. So were the people. And he came back multiple times. He's been a person, you know, who's an absolute family man. You know, he's always there. He has 2 lovely children. His wife I've met, you know, lovely couple. Not only that, he's been a great friend. Okay, because time and again, he would try to call up at that odd hour in the night because I sleep late and we would talk about it. He knows a lot about the IADVIL, just as I would know about the AD and several other organizations we work together. He would give insights. He tried to also help as a friend. He was not just there, you know, for the sake of it. Whenever I was down and out, somewhere or the other, Seemal would call. And then he would offer his insights also. So I think it's very important, to reach out to people, maintain your friends in the long run, and be a perfect family man. He has two lovely children. They're grown up now, little bit. And he's very much there. I'm very proud to say that, are you the first Indian American to become the president of AD, Seemal?
Yes.
Yes. So he's the first, Indian American, or I don't know whether you call it American Indian, to become the AD president at a very young age. It's no mean feat, right? It's not easy. Just as it is difficult in the IADVL, it's very, very, very difficult in the American Academy of Dermatology. And we are very proud of him. He's an expert in pigmentary disorders, in leadership. He's volunteered a lot. And what you have before us is as good as it gets. And you have Seemal in front of us. He's been a good friend of our IADVL. And he's here, to lecture in this, leadership pipeline program. We spoke about the leadership pipeline program, Seemal, if you remember, right?
Yes.
And we did try to build, certain things in it. So I've got inputs from him and some of my other friends in the AD, the Women's Dermatologic Society, and so much. So I think this is very important. And over to you, Seemal. I'm quite overwhelmed. So I don't even know whether I'm saying the right things. Yeah.
So I think you're saying so many of the right things, Rashmi, and most importantly, I can't thank you all enough to you and Dr. Surbi and all of the leadership at IADVL, because being with you all is actually, frankly, just being with family. And no matter where we are in the part of the world that we're in, coming back to be with colleagues in India is just being with family and being home. So it's just a true pleasure and a true honor. And, you brought back a lot of memories, Rashmi, taking a trip down memory lane over about 3 minutes. So I thank you, because your timing is, and your memory is excellent, because we first met, you are right, in 2010. And then have developed a genuine friendship. Rashmi, I consider like a sister. I know Dr. Surbi very well and think the same, and many of you on the call as well. So thank you so much. And the point of my lecture tonight is not to be giving you, facts that you have to take notes. This is meant to be aspirational and to give you some insights on things that I've done right and some, more importantly, things I've done wrong. Because along the way, there's many mistakes that were made. Many times you sort of feel, oh, I shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have done that, shouldn't have written that email. I should have said something to this person instead of this person. How did I put myself in this quandary? Those things are normal and they're going to happen. So if you leave with anything after the next 30 minutes, and then after our discussion, leave with the knowledge and the thoughts that you all are very, very positioned for success. Because I think the IADVL is truly a global phenomenon, a global leader. And certainly under the auspices of IADVL, I think all of us can continue to elevate the role that Indians play in the global dermatology scene. So hopefully you will all continue your leadership work. You'll be motivated and encouraged to continue your leadership work. And Rashmi, I'm very thankful that you made one comment especially, which was that you don't do this simply to get a position. You don't show up simply to say you've done it. You show up because you want to create the relationship.
Right.
And that is actually the most fulfilling part of all of this, is the friendship and the relationships that you make. The positions and the awards and the felicitations and the accolades are great. Everyone enjoys it and it's fun. Don't get me wrong, even I love it. But at the end of the day, when you're in a bind and you need someone, calling up someone in India, calling up someone in the US, calling up someone in Africa, etc., who you know can just give you good advice, is very, very invaluable. So thank you again. And I think we will begin. And I believe Dr. Nishant is going to share my slides. I've just prepared a few slides. Again, this is more a discussion about my journey in leadership and why I think, and also to give you, by the way, I thought something that would be helpful is to give you some specific examples of things you can do as you would want to advance your. So first and foremost, thank you again. And let me just formally congratulate Dr. Rashmi on her tenure as one of the few female presidents of the IADVL. For most of you who obviously know Rashmi in the Indian scene, she's a leader and a champion, and everyone knows her. But I think you should also know that everyone knows her on the global scene as well. In fact, just recently, I'll give you a quick anecdote. In Boston at the AAD meeting, we were at the Women's Dermatologic Society annual meeting luncheon. And I was sitting at a table, and at that table were 4 other past presidents of the WDS and two of the only 4 females who have ever been female president of the AAD. And all 4 of these ladies, Doctors Wilma Bergfeld, Lynn Drake, Susan Winkle, and Vanya Lusky, they all looked when Rashmi went up on stage for her award, even though we were at different tables, and they said, oh, it's very good she got that award because she's always there. And that's something that I think was extremely powerful for me, because I thought to myself, these are women who have no loyalty, no need to compliment someone. They've achieved everything in their careers. They can say whatever they want and be as frank as they want, but they acknowledge Rashmi's presence as being a constant throughout the AAD and WDS. So I think that's a credit to our Indian family. And I hope this will be some of you on this call. I'm sure you will be the next Rashmi Sarkar as well. So let me begin by talking a little bit about my leadership journey. And then most importantly, I'll give you some other things you may not be aware of that are opportunities for involvement and opportunities for engagement. So let's go ahead and proceed to the first slide. On the first slide, by the way, is my social media handle for Twitter and Instagram. You're welcome to reach out on the social media if you'd like. I'm not very good at social media, but I'm trying. Many of you are even better than I am because I see your work on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, but I'm trying to get there so I can keep up with my 9-year-old and 7-year-old in a few years when they're on social media. They're too young now, but when they get on, hopefully at least I'll be somewhat knowledgeable so they don't think I'm an old guy who has no clue. So next slide. So these are my disclosures. I just have to always start any lecture with disclosures, meaning that I do perform clinical research. I do perform clinical trials, particularly in vitiligo, melasma, JAK inhibitors, and cosmeceutical therapy. Those are my main areas. And I also serve on the board of directors of several organizations, including the International Society for Dermatology, the Women's Dermatologic Society, and the Global Vitiligo Foundation. Next slide. I will not be discussing any medications today, so I don't have any clinical disclosures, but I also serve on the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA. So I'm quite involved in political advocacy work, and I'll mention my interest in that and how I think even you can get involved in that in India. Next slide. So first and foremost, let me begin by sharing with you some tangible opportunities in dermatology leadership. So what do I mean by that? Well, tangible opportunities in dermatology leadership mean that there are specific roles that even you as international colleagues, you as international residents and international fellows can take a part of. So just as an example, I divided 4 of the largest US-based leadership groups. The first is the AAD, the American Academy of Dermatology. The next is the ASDS, or the American Society for Dermatologic Surgery. The next is the Skin of Color Society. And the next is the Women's Dermatologic Society. So let me begin by saying that the American Academy of Dermatology has multiple areas of leadership engagement that are possible, even for international members. In general, the structure of the AAD is formed in what's called a CCTF, or councils, committees, and task forces. Task forces are created to tackle a specific, let's say it's a task force to talk about sunscreen, a task force to talk about advances in melanoma, a task force to talk about access to care for medications. These task forces are part of various committees within the AAD structure, which ultimately report to a variety of different councils, and that council will make recommendations to the board of directors. Now, in the auspices of the AAD, there are actually specific international appointments that can happen and are available for international members. I'm going to mention some of those in just a minute. Now, the ASDS, the American Society of Dermatologic Surgery, is also a very exciting organization. I see less international engagement from colleagues in India with the ASDS, but I hope that will change. The ASDS is a wonderful group, very tightly knit. Many of the leaders of the AAD, of course, are also involved in the ASDS and some of these other groups. And if you're interested in dermatologic surgery or dermatosurgery, this is certainly an important group to become a part of. You can attend the annual meetings. There's also a program called the Future Leaders Network, where you're paired with a mentor for a 1 to 2 year period, and you're tasked with creating a solution to a particular problem in dermatology. Highly interactive program. It's called the FLN, or Future Leaders Network. I would encourage you to go to the ASDS website, asds.net, to take a look at FLN and other opportunities. Now, the Skin of Color Society is, of course, very near and dear to my heart. I'm the past president of that group. Dr. Rashmi has been on the board of directors for at least 2 terms. I've also been involved in many other aspects. Some of you have also become involved. And many of you know that when I've come to India for the PDS meeting, we actually had the Sister Society Skin of Color session, and we recruited so many new members. Importantly, the Skin of Color Society is extremely embracing of international involvement. There are research grant opportunities and committee opportunities where you can serve. Let's say you're interested in social media, or your talents are in community service, or you would like to be involved in clinical guidelines for a disease state. Those are important things to make aware to the president of the Skin of Color Society, so that when committee appointments are made every March, you can be appointed to these committees. And then finally, the Women's Dermatologic Society, the WDS, has an active chapter in India, of course, the Indian WDS. I think I want to mention, especially to our male colleagues who are on tonight, the WDS is not just for women. Men are welcome. In fact, men are extremely valued in the WDS. I have made so many close connections and friendships because of involvement in WDS, particularly with mentorship. There are also international scholarship opportunities, and there are some exciting new initiatives specifically for leadership for international members that are being launched this year under the auspices of President Dr. Mona Gohara. Next slide. And by the way, please make sure you have your questions ready. We'll have some time for discussion in a few minutes, so I'm happy to take specific questions and comments. Now, a few other groups I just thought I would mention in broader medicine. So that was first we talked about dermatology. Now, just broadly more in medicine, and I think this is very important as a message for dermatologists in your specific country, in this case, India. So in the US, we have the largest medical organization in the whole country, rather, in fact, in the whole world, is the American Medical Association, or the AMA. The AMA is like the Congress of medicine. Delegates are selected from every specialty and every state. These delegates are sent then to the House of Delegates, which is like the Congress or the Parliament, to make policies affecting all of healthcare. Now imagine that there's a policy made about dermatology. For example, let's say a policy on chemical peels or a policy on phototherapy. And this policy is made by the AMA, American Medical Association, House of Delegates, or Parliament. It's critically important that then that policy obviously be driven and guided by the expertise of dermatologists. And so it's very, very important to have a seat at the table when discussions about our specialty and our patients are being had in the auspices of other medical groups. And in fact, much of the most impactful work I've been able to do in my career has been representing dermatology in the broader House of Medicine. So in India, the corollary would be the Indian Medical Association and, of course, the Ministry of Health. And this may sound like something that's very broad or very difficult to get involved in as a young dermatologist. But being eager, showing an interest, wanting to tackle an issue, and be the voice of the specialty, I think would be embraced no matter what country we live in. And I think that's something that's very important. Actually, I know that as president of IADVL, Dr. Rashmi has met with the Ministry of Health in many parts of India. She recently, I think, had some meetings. I saw some posts related to that. And again, that is how dermatology's voice is represented more broadly. So let's say you're in Maharashtra, or you're in Tamil Nadu, or Karnataka, or wherever you are. Getting involved with your state or provincial medical organization, I think, is very, very important. Otherwise, people will be making decisions about dermatology, making assumptions about dermatology, without even hearing what it is we have to say. And rest assured that when someone tries to make an assumption that's not a dermatologist, it's most likely not going to be in our favor. I'll also mention the International Society of Dermatology, fantastic opportunities for observership and scholarships. The International League of Dermatological Societies, which is I call the mothership. ILDS is sort of like the mothership that basically allows the broader house of medicine to be organized for all dermatologic societies. Then finally, regulatory agencies like the FDA here in the US, Indian FDA, of course, medical research bodies, and medical boards. All of these places need involvement of dermatologists. And one of my goals as I continue to plan my agenda as AAD president is going to be to continue the opportunities for dermatologists to be visible in lots of different areas. Next slide. Now, I'll also mention that one example, this is an issue that's more relevant in the US. This is an issue that's maybe slightly different in India, but still I think it's worth mentioning and giving you an example, because a scope of practice, meaning a practice of dermatology by non-dermatologists. Of course, in India, I believe this issue of quackery is quite common and something that IADVL has been tackling and has been actively engaged and involved with. And here in the US, we have quite a few legislative activities or legal activities that are related to laws and healthcare bills related to scope of practice. So if you're interested in learning more, on the aad.org webpage, there's Truth in Advertising and Scope of Practice regulation, sample letters that can be sent to legislators and officials. And though this may not be an issue exactly relevant in India, there are corollaries because all of us face non-dermatologists treating patients that cause either dangerous patient outcomes or tend to impinge on our own practice of dermatology. So this is an example of somewhere where you as a leader within the specialty, within dermatology, within IADVL, can maybe cross-work and work better with your medical society in your city in Mumbai and Bangalore, wherever you are, Delhi, your state, Maharashtra, etc., and then interact with the Indian medical organizations and others. So I think this is just one specific issue. And I have learned over the years that by focusing on an issue and trying to create consensus is extremely, extremely invaluable because it shows your passion, your interest, and helps you to meet and coordinate with so many different people. Next slide. Now, the other thing that I'll just briefly mention is if you haven't visited this website called Skin Sirius, I would encourage you to visit this. You may not have heard of it. It's called skinsirius.org. Skin Sirius is a part of the specialty positioning work that we are doing at the AAD. This is a global project specifically aimed at US legislators. But if you have a clinical story or a patient example that you would like to share, please let me know. I can then forward this on to other folks within the academy structure to see if it would be something that can be highlighted. These are stories of patients' lives who have been transformed with serious skin disease and how we as dermatologists do take care of very important and serious health issues. Next slide. These are just some pictures that I wanted to share with you that are examples of how we can empower and help our patients. This was the first ever in history dedicated lobbying day that we did in Washington, D.C. at the federal Capitol for patients with vitiligo to go and lobby and meet with senators, meet with the ministers directly to talk about the effects of their skin disease on their life, advocating for more research funding and advocating for more awareness about vitiligo as a disease. The upper right-hand corner is a picture of dermatologists and patients from across the country This happened to be the Texas delegation also lobbying in the United States Capitol in Washington. You can see some familiar faces there, Dr. Ted Rosen and many others who you may recognize. This is under the auspices of the AAD. And I think IADVL is working on specific lobbying issues, political issues, policy issues, but these may be ways to continue if you have an interest in that like I do. Next slide. Now, I did want to just mention the last few things, then we'll open it up for Q&A. One thing that I wanted to mention is that on the AAD website, you may not be aware, there is this program called Skincare for Developing Countries. And these are grants between $2,500 US and $5,000 US, depending on the type of project and the availability of funds. Grant applications are open right now and will close at the end of June. So timing is of the essence. If you're interested in learning more about Skincare for Developing Countries grants, please take a look at the AAD website under this program called Skincare for Developing Countries. Again, everything that I'm expressing in tonight's lecture are my own personal thoughts. None of what I'm talking about tonight is on behalf of any organization. I do not speak in terms of my own leadership. I'm speaking just on things that personally I think are very beneficial. Next slide. Also, on the Skin of Color Society, there are two different grants on the SOX webpage. If you haven't explored this, please do. One is an observership grant, where you're actually given money to spend 1 to 2 months with a skin of color expert in their clinic or their practice, depending on the city, state, country you wish to travel to. Mentorship grant opportunity is also open, where you're paired with the mentor. I've actually mentored some of you as well as a SOX mentor. Of course, it's challenging to mentor several individuals at the same time because it's about quality, not quantity, in my opinion. So some people have reached out asking for mentorship, and it's difficult to take on multiple mentees at one time because you want to provide the amount of quality. But there is a listing of all the different mentors that are available, and you would be paired by a committee. Excellent opportunities if you haven't checked already. Next slide. This was what I mentioned on the ASDS webpage, not only the Future Leaders Network, but there is also something called the Visiting Virtual Professor Program. So let's say you're in a university and you wish to have a lecture on effective and fillers and toxins. You can put a request through the ASDS Virtual Professor Program, and a global leader in ASDS, in dermatologic surgery, like let's say Dr. Susan Winkle, or Dr. Matt Avram, or Dr. Sue Ellen Cox, or Dr. Hema Sundaram. Someone like that can actually come to your department virtually, provide a lecture, and spend time with you as a mentor. This costs the department nothing, and this is something that is covered through an ASDS budget opportunity. So it's very exciting. I myself am not involved in that, but I have seen the Virtual Professor Program. It's really a fantastic, fantastic opportunity. Next slide. So in closing, the formal part of the slides, let me just say that the opportunities to get involved in leadership are out there. They're out there for the taking, and they're out there for you. It may seem overwhelming, but first thing and foremost, never be afraid to reach out to someone you're interested in working with or learning from. Dermatology is a very small world. Everyone knows everyone to some degree, and connections and introductions that are made can sometimes be worth a leadership opportunity of the lifetime. I really, really hope that I see more and more Indians being involved in the global dermatology scene. I know I will, but this would give me deep satisfaction and fulfillment because as dermatologists of Indian origin, we can be the global leaders. And I encourage you to explore these opportunities, make your own opportunities, and don't be afraid. People remember hard work. People remember genuine authenticity, and people remember dedication. It's very easy to spot out people who are just coming to get to know you because they know you're influential and can get something from you. It's easy to see that. It's easy for all of us to see that. And it's once that bridge is burned, it's not repairable. And so one thing that I say always is your reputation in dermatology is everything. More important than any certificate or ribbon or medal is your reputation. So as long as you maintain your reputation of hard work and enthusiasm and excitement and wanting to do the right thing for your patients and the specialty, you will be the leaders. Trust me. And I have been blessed because I've had people along the way who've given me this advice. And I feel blessed that I'm now able to at least share that with you. And I hope motivate some of you to continue tackling these specific responsibilities. So thank you. And I'm happy to open it up now for discussion. And I will turn it back to Dr. Rashmi and Dr. Surbhi.
You want to say something, Surbhi?
No, I'd just like to say that it was very engaging and very, very enlightening, because I don't think any of us knew that so many opportunities actually existed. So that's very, very interesting. And I'm going to sign up for some for sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think, one thing that I wanted to say was that he's shown opportunities. Some of us, out here, we are very good. Actually, Indian doctors, Indian dermatologists are very brilliant. Sometimes we have to remember, but are we just chronic award winners or chronic scholarship winners? Some of us are, because it becomes a habit. Once you're good, you're good. What have you given back to the system? That is most important. It's very easy to get scholarships. I think, Surbhi, you'll agree with this.
Absolutely.
Is one in the rut? If you are, what have you given back also to the system? Have you taken it back? That was a question I asked myself years back, When I traveled to the American Academy of Dermatology, I had got the grant partly from IADVL. The presidents were very receptive when I told them that I'm just on the borderline, I would have crossed my age, for that, had I not got it that year. And, I was also fortunate, to get a grant from the AAD, from the WDS actually, sorry. So my question was, when I became a member, that fine, I'm there and all that, I've got scholarships, a couple of them. What have I given back to the system? And that was something that set me thinking. And that is why I tried, in my own way to give back to the system. There are no fixed rules. Have we brought up people that way? So there are many people who are here, obviously in this program, who are very bright. That is the reason you are here. If you're bright, please ask yourself that what have you given back to the system unselfishly? The answers lies there. See, he's also reached where he has, Dr. Seemal, because he's been giving back, to the system. Couple of, these societies, whatever, he's come, he's spoken so many times at IADVL. He's come at the Pigmentary Disorder Society, so many other things, made some time to stop by and talk to people. I think that is very important, that what are you trying to give back to the system, With those words, of course, that was a lovely lecture, Seemal. Some stuff that I knew, some stuff which I still don't know, but I guess I'm too grown up now for that. And, I feel that I'm quite grown up, but it's been a good journey with the American Academy and the WDS. Dinesh, would you like to say something? Dinesh is our Secretary General.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. No, ma'am. That's what I would just echo your thing, that we should always give back something to the fraternity, and knowledge is always for sharing. And not only knowledge, only when we make people around us grow, do we also grow.
Yeah.
So you summed up very well, ma'am.
Yeah, Rashmi, that was very nicely said. Actually, the most satisfaction you get is when you know that you've actually guided someone else to success.
Absolutely.
You can't change that feeling, and you can't change that memory, and that is not something you can put a price on. So keep striving for the scholarships, because we Indians should get them, and I'd love to see that. So keep going after those, but don't forget to fill the other half of the glass of pani. Not just with the scholarship half glass, the other half is with the joy of you taking it to the next level. Because all of you, even though you feel that you're learning from us now, we were all where you were 10, 15 years back, same position, listening to someone else, giving this advice in a different way. And it's true. And now you will be able to, in 10 years, 15 years from now, you will be passing it on to the next group. And that's when you will really feel a true internal satisfaction. I think we have some questions. I see Dr. Vignesh, you have your hand. Do you have a question, Dr. Vignesh?
Yes, sir. It was a wonderful talk, sir. And we really got to know about all the opportunities available to connect internationally and to go abroad.
Yes.
Actually, it's a question and sort of a request actually. So
Sure.
there are multiple grants and scholarships to go abroad from India. So are there an equal number of grants and scholarships for people from US to come to India to learn? Because it's a two-way interaction, and I think that they would also benefit by coming to India, and as we would benefit in going to the US.
That's a brilliant question. Excellent question. The short answer is, in my opinion, there are not enough opportunities for international, especially US based, to come to India and learn. I will tell you that because of my clinical interest in pigmentary disorders, much of why I've become an expert is because of what I learned in India. And when I'm giving a lecture here in the US or in Hawaii, last week I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and giving a lecture to 1,300 US dermatologists and plastic surgeons. I showed a slide. I said, the reason I'm sharing this knowledge with you on vitiligo is because I learned this when I was in India. Now, I think to your point, yes, we should have more opportunities. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think it's a great idea. And I am going to look at that because that would be great for even US to come to India and learn more, actually open the eyes and horizons of US dermatologists to the great things that are being done in India. Of course, I'm biased because I am originally of Indian origin. My parents are from India. So when I come, it's like also going home, visiting with family and friends. So there's a connection. But it would be amazing for non-Indians to also come and develop these connections. So thank you for that comment. Excellent idea.
Yeah, in fact, I'd like to say something there. The American Academy of Dermatology does have this reciprocal scholarship. Yes. That's why it's called reciprocal. So the reciprocal other part of it is that people from the US, the AD, they are also supposed to come to India, right?
Yes.
And visit us as Dermacon. One thing I'd like to say, they should not just be the ones from Indian origin. It is nice if we have proper, American people also, Seemal, if it is possible.
Exactly.
And what I'm trying to do it, they are offered some kind of housing, but it's never great. I would like to move, some amount of funding for that. So that, they can get their housing, maybe pay part for their travel.
Right.
So this is on the agenda. It was there before, but somehow it never got passed. But I think this is the time, to move it, get a little budget for them. And I mean, after all, what is a couple of lakhs, maybe 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs for giving it to those people. And so that they have a housing of their choice, like we did.
Yes.
And, they're able to travel, put in a bit of their money. So I think that is how we can make the AD grant a bit lucrative. I think I've discussed this, but we need to bring this up.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think, Rashmi, we should connect on that more. And
absolutely.
Discuss
I'd just like to add one thing.
Yeah, please.
We have already written to them, ma'am. We have written to the AD people. I think Karen have written. And I'm just waiting for the details for them to come. We have sent us our proposal that we will be hosting the American dermatology residents for our dermatology meet in Mumbai.
Excellent.
Yeah, but Dinesh, we need to give them that scholarship that I talked about, so that they are able to get a housing of their
I've sent that thing. I've sent them what and all we are going to provide them.
Yeah. So that proposal we have to put up. We did that, but somehow it didn't get through that time. It was half, done. So now we need to make sure that it's as lucrative as it is for our students, our Indians, when they go to the American Academy of Dermatology.
Great.
If I could have another comment, actually.
Sure.
And most of these grants and exchanges are between a very few and limited number of people. That's also an issue. So with the gift of technology, is it possible for a larger number of people to connect? Because with technology, it doesn't cost much to connect across countries as well.
Yes, I actually think that what Rashmi and the executive committee have done, creating these leadership pipeline sessions, is invaluable. Because 2 years ago, no one was meeting on Zoom. No one had the knowledge, interest, background, time. Now we can't live without Zoom. So I agree with you that we have to create a cadence that's formalized. So then that every quarter there's a meeting, for example. Similar to this, just giving you an example, the ASDS Virtual Professor Program. Something like this, that you could create an international visiting professor program. And it could also be a two-way visiting professor program. So US key opinion leaders speak to Indian residents and young derms. Indian key opinion leaders speak to US residents and young derms, something like this. So I think it's a great idea. I know IADVL, Rashmi, is already working on that, because this was something she was talking about even before she stood for election. I remember that she wanted to do. So I think it's a great idea, and let's continue to move that forward. Yes.
Yeah. In fact, this is one program we were talking also, Seemal and I.
Yes.
This was, I think, last year, before he became the president, actually, honestly speaking. This is much before that. And I had, of course, become the president. But when we talked about it, we did think that, how can we make it better for younger and middle-level people? That is when this leadership pipeline project, came up. And it's a first for India, but I think, it should go a long way, even if a handful of you are able to give back to our association. So please do give back to the association.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We have a question, Dr. Abhirami.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. It was an excellent talk, sir. Really inspiring. One of my query is that when we join an institution or an organization, how to start? As in, do we put out our ideas? Do we show our originality right from the beginning? Or do we just sit still and analyze what's going around and then, get merged with the institution? What is your take on that, sir?
It's a good question. It's a strategic question. And the short answer is you do both of what you said. The way you know how to do which approach, sit back or move forward, being a little bit more aggressive, in my opinion, is based on the size of that group. And it depends on the organization itself. For example, in AAD, largest organization in the world, over 20,000 dermatologists. In that group, sharing your ideas and putting that creativity from the get-go is not going to be super possible, because the organization is so large. In a smaller group, let's say the Skin of Color Society or the Contact Dermatitis Society or the Medical Dermatology Society, more opportunities to share those ideas earlier on. I think first and foremost, what you should do with any society you join, look at the organizational structure. How is the organizational structure set up? Very few people, I suspect, actually go to the websites and look at the bylaws and the organizational structure. It won't take long, 10, 20 minutes, to at least look at the setup. How many committees are there? Are there councils? Are there work groups? Or is this organization only have a board of directors and a scientific committee? Once you have an idea of how many layers of leadership involvement there are, then you know to figure out which entry point you want. Then you look for that entry point. Let's say you know your talent is in social media. Find if that group has a social media or communications committee. Then you reach out to the chairperson or a member on that committee to express that interest, give them your background, and you go from there. Initially, they may say, right now, we don't need any help. Thanks for letting me know. Fine. You say, thank you for your note. I'll follow back up with you in 3 to 4 months. Set a reminder to yourself on your calendar, gentle follow-up. You don't want to be pushy, but you don't want to be soft. Some amount of putting yourself out there is needed. And every time you put yourself out there, there's a risk that the door may be shut. Who cares? Let it be shut. Then you try again and do another gentle reminder. The door will not always remain shut. You'll be surprised at how many times I've gotten an email from someone, I want to come, do a rotation at your office. I want to spend a month with you in your clinic. Okay, well, right now we are not taking anyone because of COVID. We can't let people, the restrictions, et cetera, I say, let's follow up again in a few months. Person follows back up. Still, no opportunity there to come in person. But guess what? Now I have an opportunity if you want to write a case report up or if you want to write a manuscript. That opportunity may be something different, but guess what? It will get your name out there. Your name will be with the name of a few other people. So I think you do sit back when you first join a group to find out first how the group is structured. Once you have a sense of how it's structured, find an entry point where you know that you can make a mark. That will be your entry point. And once you make a mark well in that area, so many doors will open. Because at the end of the day, all of these societies are based on volunteers. We are all busy in our lives, in our families, our careers, our practice. Everything we're doing in leadership is on top of all of that. So there is always a need for hard work, dedication, and enthusiasm. And if you show that once, you sometimes in the future will end up being asked to do more things than you're even able to. It's quite funny how once you show your true dedication and interest, how many opportunities will come your way.
So I also had another question. Both ma'am and you were saying giving back to the society, giving back to the organization. I've just completed my post-graduation. I'm entering SRship. So at my level, what can I do to give back at this level? Is it possible at this level?
Yes, it is. First, the thought itself is very empowering, Midami, that, you're going to do that. You're going to give back. So I think as a senior resident, first of all, learn the difficulties what the residents have. Try to be with them, rather than being over with them. One reason why I was popular as a senior resident was because I was a part of them, they were like family members. Secondly, study the system. Maybe one good way is to observe, be a good observer. How others are working. Then decide what do you want to take up actually. There's plenty that you can do in senior residency to give back. You can serve in some committees. This time it was open, the committees, if you notice. So you can definitely be there somewhere, helping out in some committee, even if you're not formally there in a committee. Reach out and say that, do you need me somewhere? Can I help you out somewhere? You can reach out to the leadership. Now there are a lot of opportunities. So try to give back to the society, be a beacon of light to the other people, who may be thinking, like, for example, you have these regular people always writing on social media that nothing is done for quackery and everything like that. It's not like that. A lot of things are done. It's just that we have such a big country that you will not see those little, spots of light which are coming up. People have been working. So it's not good to keep on blaming the system. Just say that, what have you done for the system? People are doing, but it's just too vast. All of us have to work together. So there are plenty of opportunities. Once you finish, please let us know. We will be more than happy, to get you into the system. There is the residents group that was there, that was formed. That's a give back. There's the Yuva committee. There's a lot that you can do. We need people like all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Because I think Seemal is there. I think. Yeah.
Ma'am, can I ask a question now?
Please, Sanjay Kadodia.
Dr.
He's
Sanjay,
from Rajasthan.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am. I just wanted to ask that we always don't have mentors in our life.
Yes.
So is it necessary to have mentors for your all the career, or can you work alone in your career, sir?
Absolutely, you can work alone. Absolutely, you can have more than one mentor also. I don't think mentorship is only a one person. So I have many mentors, actually. And it's important to have many mentors. A mentor doesn't have to be someone you speak to every week. A mentor doesn't have to be someone who you've published 20 papers with. A mentor simply be someone who gave you a chance to get involved in a group, or gave you the chance to speak in their session, or gave you the chance to publish a poster. So the answer is yes, you can work on your own. But I would argue that working on your own can sometimes be quite lonesome. And having that opportunity to work with a mentor can actually be much more joyous.
Yes.
And actually, sometimes the mentees that I work with give me more energy and enthusiasm to continue my work. So it's a two-way street. So I think there is good value to be had. But you don't have to be focused so much, oh, I must have a mentor, I must have a mentor. Sometimes you can start the work and then you'll find the mentor by doing the work.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
It's a good point. Yes, it's a very good. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay. Dr. Vignesh, you have another question?
Yes, sir. Actually, for associations like AAD, why is the membership on a yearly basis? Is there a life membership also available? And instead of having to renew it every year?
No, the membership is for everyone, even US diplomats, fellow members. It's annual renewal. The only memberships that are not annual renewal within the AD are the honorary members. Honorary members are a special distinction after the age of 70. That's given as almost a lifetime achievement to 5 dermatologists per year. That's an honorary member. So yes, it is expensive. Dues are costly. And you have to be aware that you don't have to be a member of every society, because otherwise you can rack up the bills. But there are ways to get involved and be a member. If you're having financial hardship, I think many of the organizations will take that into consideration. You can write to the member department of different groups, skin of color, WDS, etc. And those considerations are taken, because I know few people who have availed of that.
Yes. So, and another thing, our MBBS is different from what is considered as a bachelor degree in the United States.
Yes.
So, and for your residence page in AD, for example, the board fodder bulletin per se, I had actually written there once, and they said that they receive only from MD and not from MBBS. So, could there be an option to consider degrees from other countries also, which are at least equivalent to the degrees in US?
Yes, to my understanding, the membership category, international category, does take degrees that are equivalent for the country. So I think that is possible. I would suggest because I know that's been updated. Just 2 years back, I believe, there was a new category design called IFAAD, International Fellow of the American Academy of Dermatology. And it's basically a very nice honor distinction for international members that is related to the category of training you've had in equivalence. So that is taken into consideration, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
So most importantly, I just want to say thank you to all of you again. Time has flown by, an hour has already passed. And this has been such a rich discussion. As usual, I'm energized and excited every time I'm with my Indian family. So thank you. Dr. Surbhi, especially, I want to thank, because she has organized this very nicely. And Dr. Rashmi, of course, needs no thanks except to say heartfelt thanks, really, because this is all part of her vision and her work to develop leaders in India. And, I remember meeting her when she was also sort of a young person, and still looks the same, actually, doesn't look any different.
Thanks for saying that,
Yeah, well, it's true. And
even if it is a lie, it sounds really good.
Yeah, no, it's not a lie. Because the virtual screen makes us all look a bit younger, which is good.
Yeah, that's true. That's the good part of this Zoom platform. Yeah, it hides the imperfections. Yeah.
I do genuinely want to thank her and Dr. Surbhi and all of the leaders of IADVL. So thank you for your hard work. And most importantly, you all are the next group to take up to the next level. So I hope you will do even better than me. Do even better than Dr. Rashmi, do even better than Dr. Surbhi, and advance it even better. That's the most happiness that we can achieve. Then the next group does even better. So I hope to see you all soon at a meeting in person. Let's pray that the pandemic continues to get better, touch wood, and look forward to seeing you all again. Thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Seemal. Thank you. Good night.
Night, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Seemal.